Hi, everyone. How's it going? I am Dr. Danisha Blake, and I have here with me
Bree, your handy dandy cohort mate.
your friendly neighborhood. I was like, I want to get a T-shirt called like your friendly neighborhood feminist killjoy. I feel like if it doesn't exist,
Don't say that too loud. They're
I,
gonna do the t-shirt printing press.
I know I'm gonna see it, and I'm gonna be so hurt. So we are here to talk about the secret life of church ladies. It is very small, but it is mighty. Okay, it is by Disha Phil y'all. I think that's how you pronounce it. And we're going to be talking about the theme of food today. So, if you have not purchased your syllabus from the Smart Brown Girl website, please go do it. Or if you're an insider, please go download it because that's what we'll be using to draw on our conversation. And for some reason, I am not with the chat. So let me just pull that up. Okay, here we are.
Yep. So we're going to be discussing the theme of food today. And for folks who are following along in the chats and using the syllabus, as you notice for this one, since it's a short story collection, we are going thematically. So this is the spoiler alert for this section. This is also the trigger warning for throughout the Secret Lives of Church Ladies. We're discussing a myriad of topics and life experiences that may trigger you. Discussion of child neglect, queer phobia, and all of those ongoing violences, as this book very squarely confronts patriarchy in a whole lot of ways. So this is your moment to know that we are here with you on your screen if you're watching live, and if you're watching that YouTube playback, we are here. But those are our two spoiler and trigger alerts before we get into the weeds here.
Yes. So can I ask you a question? What made you take the direction of doing things thematically when you were writing the syllabus?
Right. So first, I would say just pragmatically, it was Jules's idea in talking about, because this book is so literally small.
Mm-hmm.
Like, y'all, this is not a pocket edition. This is how the book comes, pure publication. But it is very much like purse pocket size. And so when you get into it and when you get into the 9 stories, you realize that the usual way we do things of going like chapter by chapter and breaking it down, even when I was editing and writing it, if we did it in our typical style, it doesn't seem rich enough, right? Because there is so much cross-story conversation, particularly in a short story collection. And I think in the end, and folks, please let me know in the Facebook group if you prefer this syllabus method for short stories. But I really think for the short story collection in particular, going thematically allows you to jump around. Some people might prefer some stories to others. Some people might have not gotten to the last story, but still want to talk about the themes of food or marriage or family or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. So it allows you to kind of enter in where you can.
Yeah.
So, because I think they track throughout. So, all right. Well, I will start off by reading our first question. So, if you are following along on the syllabus, the first question starts on page 9, and it's a quote, and it says, "For Eula's birthday the next year," and this is from, I believe, the first story, Eula. So, for Eula's birthday the next year, I planned a special dinner at my house for us. I went down to the fish market on Avery and got everything to make gumbo, her favorite dish. Eula like my grandma, Pauline's gumbo, but without the okra. So that's how I made it. I cooked the night before Eula's birthday because grandma always said that the gumbo tasted better after it had a chance to sit in the Frigidaire for a day. So, describe your relationship or your family's relationship to preparing meals for loved ones. Do y'all cook for holidays or birthdays? So, you want to start off?
Yeah, so even when I pulled this quote, it's from page 4 of the book, if people are following along for that moment in the text. I really deeply thought about my own mother and how, like, particularly around Thanksgiving, because she makes a cornbread stuffing,
Ooh, yes, mine do
Right?
too. Yes.
So if folks are familiar with like making a cornbread stuffing from scratch, like you got to cook the cornbread at least a day before so that
Yes.
you can set it to the side before
Mm-hmm.
you mix it up, right? So that's totally separate than the cornbread you might be eating with the meal. This is
Uh-huh.
like the preparation cornbread. So even as Carlotta is having this moment, I'm like, yeah, when you talk about preparation of food and like the planning of it, that
Mm-hmm.
care comes out. Like my mama got to care about me to make cornbread stuffing if it's not Thanksgiving.
Oh, my mama does all the time, but she does it different. She actually cooks it the same day, but then she also takes a slice out of it and then she leaves it for me to taste. And then she uses the rest of the cornbread for the stuffing.
Aww.
I love her.
Shout out to all the mamas.
That's just so much care. Like she's like, yeah, left your little sliver there. You can go ahead and eat it. And then another thing she does is she always has me and my dad taste it to make sure that there's enough sage in it.
Mm.
Gotta have like it's like there's a certain level, and sometimes it's too much, but then sometimes it's not enough. So she'll go around walking around with this spoon, and have us taste it. So yeah.
Wow, that is so lovely. Like, even
Mm-hmm.
as we're having this conversation and thinking about these memories of like, not only is it invoking the meal, but like the house when a big meal is being cooked, right? Like, I don't know other people, like, there's like an energy in the house when we know there's a big meal at the end of the day.
Yes.
And like, some people are watching the football game, right? Some people are outside with the kids. Some people
Mm-hmm.
are sitting in the living room or the dining room, and like there's a group just talking that's different from like the kitchen group, right? And I'm just like, that energy of a full house of people and a meal being cooked is so tender.
Yes, yes. And it's so great when even family members know just how you like things. So like just like I don't like okra in anything either. So when my mom cooks like chicken noodle soup or like a vegetable soup, she puts okra in it and I hate that. So she'll set some aside and just, she was like, oh, no okra, no tomatoes. Like those are the two things I cannot stand. And so
Yeah.
she's like, there you go. So it's just that, nuance too, I think that makes it so special.
Yeah. Wow. So
Mm-hmm.
even thinking about that, and another thing I'll bring up on the point of birthdays, because it's Eula's birthday in particular, is we didn't really do anything particular for anybody else's birthday, but I know for my granny's birthday, she needed her coconut cake. And the rest of us could not stand, like she had the classic like shaved coconut all on the outside cake too. We
Yes.
couldn't stand it. Like none of us could stand that cake, but we knew that granny loved it so much and she needed it. So somebody had to go down to the bakery and get the coconut cake every year.
Yep. Yep. That's it. Yeah, I think we didn't really do many celebrations around birthday. Like when I was younger, we did. But I think we do mostly the traditional holidays now. But yeah. Yeah. So do you want to move on?
Yeah, we kind of got into it this
Oh,
next.
yeah.
Are there dishes you block out the full day to prepare?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of mine now that I'm an adult, as my mother likes to remind me.
Right. My contribution is always the mac and cheese, and it does not take a full day. But I am the appointed mac and cheese, and I make a really bomb like 5,000 cheese, the whole milk and with heavy cream. Like it is.
Okay.
Like your heart gonna stop. But you just gonna eat it once a year, so or twice, because sometimes we do it at Christmas. But that is my contribution, and it doesn't take all day. It depends on if I choose to do a whole block, if I like shred the block of cheese myself, or if I want to get the bag. But that's my little dish for our family stuff.
Hey, everybody in the comments as
Hey,
well.
y'all.
On YouTube, on Facebook, and all of our streaming platforms. My mother is the designated mac and cheese maker, and so I almost feel like that role even got passed down to me. Of like now my mama don't make it no more, so it's like better get in there with your roux and your Gouda and your A-sharp cheddar.
Yes.
Pressure.
It's intense, and it is so much pressure. Like, if you don't come correct with that mac and cheese, or any dish that everybody is really expecting you to come with, It's like, oh, they gonna talk about me bad.
They're gonna tear you up. They're gonna tear you up.
You know, I get real nervous. And it's the same recipe every year, but it's just, if it's not just so, I won't forgive myself. So.
And it's even, I feel like macaroni and cheese debates go viral every like end of the year. Like that classic video of being like, now, why did you try something new today?
This is not the day, okay? This is the day of the year. You don't bring your little, oh, I saw this on, You practice, okay?
Do not bring your Pinterest mac and cheese. Do not bring your Pinterest mac and cheese to Granny house.
Don't do it. No. You stick to the script, okay? And you try that out on every other day of the year.
It's facts though, because imagine being the person when you're on the other side of it and you just knew you was going to get a full plate.
Right. That's the thing. It's like there's no other options.
No. Not at all.
Not today.
So yeah.
My favorite thing is when people talk about don't put any beige plates on. Or they'll be like, please do not put your Thanksgiving plate. It's not cute. Like, and it's not. Like, see, your Thanksgiving plate is ugly, okay? And it's always going to be ugly. But that's just the nature of Thanksgiving food. It's just a bunch of mashed up things. And so it's not cute, but it's good. So don't post it, eat it, you know? So
you got
I'm just sharing the message. I'm just a messenger. I'm not.
You said, you know, don't shoot me.
Don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger. Let's see what this person says. My grandfather always remembers to make my favorite dish, broccoli, rice, cheese casserole for my birthday. Oh, okay. I'm grateful every time. That's sweet.
That is so lovely.
But thank you for that.
That is so lovely. Shout out to your grandfather.
Yeah.
And that tradition that y'all have.
Absolutely. And to that question, do you connect food to love and loving?
Absolutely. And that's why this story, and then when we get on to peach cobbler also, and when we talk about peach cobbler and everything that's happening there, and like everything that's going on with that mama,
like, was that love with mama?
Was it?
Yeah. Was it love for God? Quote unquote.
Who knows? I definitely connected to love and loving though. Like as we were talking about, like you and your mom and that slice of cornbread that you know is yours that goes into it. I'm definitely also thinking about like even like you also said, like when your person who's making the food, like your granny, your mother, your dad, says something to the side. Like I'm even thinking about it at cookouts, right? Like even like taking it from Thanksgiving and like in the house to outside of the house, and knowing that like people be waiting on the proteins, especially to come off the grill. And when you know the person on the grill is going to set you a hot dog and a hamburger to the side
while the chicken's still grilling, because you know you got to do the hot dogs and the hamburgers first.
Yes.
Everybody waiting on the chicken and the ribs. We're hungry, so we want to have our little snack, and so you got to do the hot dogs first.
Yeah. Just think about getting your food set to the side, the time it takes to cook the food, depending on like the ingredient curation that you have to do. Like, are we even taking it slightly to peach cobbler? Are we using fresh peaches?
Because mama in here was using fresh peaches when they were in season, and I was like, oh, okay, shut me down, because I was definitely going to open up a big old can of Dole. And I might get the kind without the heavy sugar, but I might also just put the heavy sugar in there.
Okay.
And keep it moving.
It depends how much time you gave me for when you told me I needed to show up with this peach cobbler.
Because peach cobbler is an all-day I mean, the dough itself, it is a intense. That's also something that my dad will not. I made peach cobbler one time, and peach cobbler and spaghetti one time, and my dad will never forget that. Like that is his highlight. He was like, I came home, and I might have been 10. Like I was a kid trying to do it, and he was like, I came home and that peach cobbler was sizzling, and that spaghetti was on the stove, and it was just the highlight of his day. And he has not, and that has been over, I think, 20 years. So
yeah. And if we go to snowfall, which also is later in the collection around page. It's in the. I know that moment's like it's page 93.
Yep.
Where we get this is our story that's with our out queer characters, right? So their lovers is very clear. They live together. And this is when we get that crab boil scene on page 93. And it says, I smell it before I see it. The pepper hits my nose first, and then the full array of aromas, onions, peppers, Old Bay, Zatarain's crab boil seasoning. Grocery store bags litter the floor and counters. The kitchen table is covered in newspaper that Rhonda must have bought at the store. My mother always saved old newspapers to cover the picnic table in the backyard. And just like on my mother's table, there are little bowls of melted butter, a bottle of Louisiana hot sauce, and a pitcher of tea. That scene,
imagery, sensations,
right?
You are just planted there. Like it's like you can smell it yourself. And you're like, yes.
And we come back to this moment for a later question, but as we think about the love and loving, before we get into that question, which goes a little bit more explicitly into like sexuality, I believe, just like thinking of like the whole setup of the scene, of what you're saying, like imagine you coming out the bathtub and you got a full crab boil house. You love me. You love me. You love me. Like that's what it's giving. Like you deeply care for me.
Yes, you love her. Okay.
Down.
Okay.
Down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love her down is what it's giving, because like the fullness, this moment of memory that's happening here of like throwback to her mama. When we get to that question, we'll get into everything with her mom and what's happening and why the crab boil is so specific. But as we were talking and just thinking about, like, I am brought back to this memory of like, if I'm coming down the stairs, like soft, just washed all of the day off of me, and you got crabs downstairs for me. Oh yeah, you my partner forever. I don't know where you thought you was going.
You ain't going nowhere.
But it's not up out of here. It's not happening.
Just how like she was able to create home and that feeling of home, especially when they are away. I don't know, they're in the Midwest and they're from the South, and it's frigid, and so just bringing that element. I mean, that to me, thinking about family and chosen family and all of those things, like that's really special. And to recreate that, for life.
And especially in a romantic partnership, I think people in the theme and the motif of food and loving is strong throughout print and even like cinema, like as a text, as a literature. I think that is very strong for like familial love and loving. But as far as romantic love, I feel like that's like seen as like the epitome of like when you cook for a person, that's like that special event, that date, that anniversary, that like I'm giving you all of the love languages, right? That act of service. It's a gift. It might require some words of affirmation of like understanding why the meal was cooked or how like the meal came to be. And so even thinking throughout the collection of like how these themes show up in different styles of relationships is also really key, because as we were talking about this tense moment in Peach Cobbler where like Olivia tries to make and successfully makes a peach cobbler and her mom is like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. That was intense.
So intense. And you got the pastor sitting at her dining room table every Monday.
Woo! that was too hot and heavy. All right, let me put this comment up here. Oh, this is a good question to this might segue us into another question that you had too, but I didn't grow up with crab boys because I'm from inland Texas, but living in DC, this scene brought me back to the first time I went to the harbor with my roommate and got bushels of crab. It was like an initiation to our family. Love it. Yes. Absolutely. Ooh, I miss Maryland crab. I do.
Come on.
Every day I think about this and I'm like, I just gotta go back. I don't know what I was thinking. I love Maryland so much.
Come
You don't
on.
listen till you don't. And I just
And as far as like, I think that's this thank you for whoever wrote that comment, because that takes me even to another layer of the loving. Like if you travel with somebody for some food, or
yeah.
like go back to their hometown for some food, that is like like if I bring you here for some crabs, for a chicken box, whatever, like you should know in that moment I care about you.
Yes. Because it's such a moment of vulnerability. Like you don't fully know if they're gonna accept this is a part of you that you're exposing, like that is cultural, that's personal, that's familiar, all of these things, and you're bringing them back to experience that with you, hoping that you will be affirmed in that too. You know, so when we talk about words of affirmation, you also, I think, the person on the who's giving or showing the experience is also hoping that this resonates or this demonstrates love and connection.
Absolutely, because like you said, it's that fear. Like, what if I bring you to the around the way spot to get this thing that I grew up eating, and you look down at it like maybe like the physical place of where we're getting food? Because like this also goes into like, especially in the South, like some of the best food being the most hole in the wall.
Yes. Yep.
And do not turn your nose up at Mr. Bo and them with the smoker in the parking lot making the best ribs you will ever have in your life.
Yeah. You better walk on in there and get what you need. Yeah. But yeah, it is because you like, yeah, I mean, and that's where class comes in, you know, like and if you all are of different class backgrounds, I mean, there's a whole level right there. So
yeah. And that leads us into this next fuller question, which draws on like more themes in Black literature, where it says food is a common thematic element in Black literature. Often Black feminist writers like Gloria Naylor and Pat Parker use food to explore broader themes like faith, desire, and sensuality. How does food connect to the intimate experience of Black women and girls at the center of this collection? Consider stories throughout the text.
Yeah. I like what you said. I think it's in your intro about like the interiority of Black women's lives. Like, I think we get in these moments, I mean, we get to see I think there's a lot of research out there about the kitchen being like that place and of connection and of love and it's the heart of the home. And so, but you get to see that, I think, kind of laid out as opposed to, you know, in theory or whatever. You get to really see it unfold. You almost get to see the movement around that space and how a meal comes together. And so, I think just as a kind of I don't even know if this is a preview because the syllabus is already up there, but to even Wayward Lives, right? When we talk about the interiority of Black women's lives, like, and thinking about that connection as well, like even just like in Wayward Lives, you're getting to see sort of the physical space. I mean, in addition to sensation and all of these different senses that get activated, you're also getting a chance to kind of think about the physical space of the kitchen, of the home, and what happens in the home too.
Yeah, I had that in mind, right? Like you talk about, I don't know if it's absolutely. I have Wayward Lives on the brain, especially for when we get into the. I think me and Dr. Carter are doing the Scandalous Womanhood section, but I love how Hartman, to get some intertextuality between this fiction text and Wayward Lives. I love how Hartman uses that language of the chorus and the interior, and I felt like it fit perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It fit perfectly because what we get in this collection is the interior of like this quote unquote conservative group of just like all of the church ladies leaving service and going home to cook, or like who stand behind in Bible study, the pastor's wife, even like you're getting all of these different people, and we're getting this intimate interiority in different in different geographies, in different generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I also appreciated about this collection was it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
all stories of Black women as an adult.
Yes.
We get quite a few perspectives of young Black girls.
Jael.
I ate it up. Like
Yeah.
I was gonna go for this one. I'm thinking about sort of a funny moment with food that happens in Dear Sister on page.
Oh, yeah.
On page 37. I think you know where I'm going. Of when they're at the repast for their father.
Yes. Oop. Have to drop the book.
And they have Mr. Chauncey, who early in the story has made some passes at the daughter at the burial site, right?
Yes.
So you get her two sisters, Tashetta and Renee, and it says, at the next table, I saw Tashetta sitting across from Chauncey, smiling and nodding. From what I could make out, he was once again talking about Stet's beautiful daughters. Renee joined them and set a plate of food and a cup of punch in front of Chauncey. He kept on talking, and Renee and Tashetta kept on smiling and nodding. And then Chauncey took a long drink of his fruit punch and screamed. He clawed at his throat. He broke into a sweat, and his eyes filled with tears. Some of the ladies from the church rushed over to help. Renee and Tashetta floated over to our table with their plate, sat down, and kept eating. And I said, I know that's right.
Yeah. You right, dirty old man. When she said she shuddered, I was like, I've been there, sis. I've been there.
There's nothing to say.
Yeah, this is a good point Julesy made, is food is both a symbol of love and a tool of abuse in the book. Yeah, and I think I was trying to say that a little earlier when I was thinking about, like, is that really love when we talk about specifically Olivia and her mother and their relationship to that peach cobbler and how that represented. And then, like, do you feel like with that, do you feel her mother, when she learned how to make peach cobbler, do you feel like she felt threatened by her?
I feel like Olivia's mother in that relationship to peach cobbler was so interesting. And I mean that with all of the ambiguity of the word interesting, because we get this beautiful opener, right? Like, it very much reminds me of like a Toni Morrison opening line of a novel, where we get this line, my mother's peach cobbler was so good it made God himself cheat on his wife. And I said, that's a Toni Morrison masterclass in how you hook us into a story.
Yeah.
And to think of like the way that upon my first reading, I was like, okay, I thought this was going to be a story of like a loving family, and we were going to get some sort of tease into like that interior, but to go full out of like, there's neglect here, there's an odd relationship with like, do we see Olivia and her mother have a full meal together in this book? I don't think so, but her mama always in the kitchen making that like elbows deep in dough, elbows deep in flour, making that homemade peach cobbler.
Because there was even moments where she was like, I mean, there were TV dinners, and the first time that she got a decent meal was at the man's house, the pastor's house. And then she had to kind of like cover it up, like, oh, it was nothing, or, you know, or no, I think when her mom said, well, what did you eat? Then she goes, oh, sandwiches? Oh, that ain't nothing. It's like, well, it's not.
You know, her sitting here in front of the TV eating a benefit dinner or a banquet dinner.
Hungry man? Are we comparing this sandwich to Hungry Man today? No.
Like, you know, the pastor's wife was busting out like the good artisan bread with the.
I just imagine those, like, you know, when you have a tea party and they have
the dainty little.
Yeah, that's all I saw. And I was like, this is probably just some wheat bread and some deli meat. But to me, the way that they described the home, I felt like they were at a tea party. I was like, I know the china was out, okay?
It felt very
did they say if they were in the South?
I think throughout the story, we get allusions of when we don't specifically get a place. I assume the South.
Okay.
Because I think it also went to me with like this covering this whole appeal of like, when I think of church ladies, I think of the South. Like, that specific phrasing of like a church lady.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're Southern. We're getting like Sunday's best. I'm thinking Baptist church in particular.
Oh yes, the cussing Christians.
Yes, I'm getting dressed to the nines. And I immediately, when I read this story and we shift over to Pastor Neely's house, I'm like, we're at Greenleaf. Yes. This is Greenleaf. I was like, oh, this is some mess. This is some A1 mess.
Yes, mess. Absolutely. You know what? I just started watching this show called Saints and Sinners. Have you heard of that show?
No.
It's like if Greenleaf met Power. Like it's really, that is what it is. And it's not at all churchy. Like Greenleaf was like, we got a little choir, we got a little sermon every now and again. We get a sermon once a season in this show, and it is all, so it's leaning more into Power. But this is what I was thinking about Greenleaf with this too. But one thing I wanted to say a little bit earlier was when we were talking about the interiority of Black women's lives is there is this theory in Black feminism around the culture of dissemblance, and really that the way that and politics of respectability. But I think we talk about politics of respectability a lot. I think the culture of dissemblance, this idea of being open but also closed around ideas around sexuality and sex. And so I think that this book really does, and the theory is was introduced and coined by historian Darlene Clark Hine. And I think that she's really kind of asking us to consider something different besides church ladies are always secretive about who they are or their sexualities. And it might be secret to you, but I think we get a chance to like get into some of these deeper conversations around sex and sexuality that we haven't always had a chance to get into because of those things.
Yeah. When you say that, it makes me think of there's a brilliant scholar. Her name is Megan Williams. She's finishing up at Purdue. And her work is around food and the way that food shows up as a tool and motif of sexuality throughout Black feminist literature. Specifically, she's looking at like Bailey's Cafe and things like that, and the emotion that comes through when we get these scenes from Black feminists about these quote unquote conservative characters putting all of their feeling into making food for other people. And so I also carry that with me throughout this section of like, dang, like if we go through the Black feminist canon of text and we think about like the conservative, the maternal, the head of household Black woman characters, I also thought of like Eva in Sula, right? And how Nell, who comes from like the conservative prim and proper household, is like, I always want to come over to Sula's to eat because there's always something going on.
Right. Yeah. There's some spice to life, and there's some excitement that even when you're, I mean, yeah, because then you think about it, and even though that's considered good and full, is sterile. Is that it's a little, no, that's kind of the worst word to use in relation to Black women, but it just feels like there's that element of,
sanitized,
Yeah,
right?
sanitized. I think that's a better word.
Yeah, it feels very like, even when we talk about the scene of the different houses at the pastor's house, like I definitely thought of like a big staircase when you open the door, and like everything looks white or nude, or like don't bring no color in this house with this light-skinned first lady that we got up here.
I feel like she had a pink jumpsuit, I just felt something about her.
Pearls on the neck.
Yes.
It's giving. These are symbols. There's a reason.
Describe somebody. And we are not being shady. I just feel like, that's who I saw in my head. The long ponytail. I just,
The greeting you with a smile at the door, leading you into the dining room with all the serving platter that you were talking about from the tea party is laid out for you.
There might have been a Black maid. Some, you
No.
know, somebody was a service worker in that house, and they were probably black and or Latinx. So, you know, I just feel like that's what they're giving me. So yeah.
And that gives us another relationship to food of like, where is food prepared, by whom, for whom's like hunger.
Mm-hmm.
As we think about like who has the class status in the household, right? Because I think having serving staff and like service staff like that also denotes like you got to have a house of a certain size to bring
Yeah.
somebody in,
Yeah.
right? Like when we think about the tabooness or the attitudes around like bringing outsiders into a black home.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know people who pre-clean the house before they ever get the maid to come over, or like the house cleaning lady that you know in your neighborhood or from your
Yeah.
church. Y'all gonna pre-clean.
Oh yeah, because they ain't gonna come up in your house looking
Clean.
at all your stuff, talking about you. Because I think it's like, you know, there's still this level of like, you know, distrust about, and gossip is, you know, you're not gonna come up here gossip about my house.
Talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely thought about Peach Cobbler and Dear Sister. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get into The Lovers again from
Mm-hmm.
Stonewall. But I definitely thought about those black women and girls when we think about Dear Sister in the moment of like they put the hot sauce in his fruit punch and he was up here choking. And you think about this Peach Cobbler moment and her mom and just like the scene where she goes into the trash can. How did you feel about that? That's
That's very triggering to me. Also because I grew up where I think I told you this like a long time ago. Like we do not waste food. And one time, like even when I was a kid, like my parents would make me sit at the table until I ate. So it was really like for someone to throw that, but then for her to like dig in the trash, like that was rough. That was rough to get through because it was just like that would never happen. So
and like not even to be like, even when her mother catches her, right, it's not even like a that's unsanitary, that's whatever. It's like, you know, she was more mad at, you know, that's not yours.
Yes, the lack of care. It was just like it was more about controlling her and keeping her from eating something that was a symbol of her love, but also disappointment with him. And so she is punishing her, knowing that this is just all, you know, and don't let it be the ones that she used with the Georgia peaches. Oh yeah, this wasn't the South because she said it was Georgia peaches. But yeah, no.
That there was a couple moments where I had to throw this book. Mm-hmm. That one I just had to sit down and I think I just needed to go get some water or a ginger ale or something because I'm just like, your baby is digging through the like the image of that, of like, if we're connecting it to her being starved for her mother's affection, it's right there.
Yes, literally. That's a word.
And I'm just like, and to connect it to the world and being like, maybe not the peach cobbler at the bottom of the trash, but somebody's child is starved for their love. And like patriarchy got so many people by the throat that it's like, you going to give Pastor Neely the peach cobbler every time.
And it was a particular kind of cruelty. It was almost like there was this disdain for her because it's not that because if I'm mistaken, did she push it down further in the trash so it was even more filthy, or did she put it on top of it?
I can't remember what happens in the moment after. What stuck out to me was that moment and then the contrast at the end where Olivia's like, I just wanted my mother's love.
Yeah.
But then she has that moment of walking away.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody added a comment on that part.
There it is.
My heart broke when Olivia says, quote, my mother is more embarrassed by my breast than I was. Olivia in the trash is just a symptom of her mother's neglect. Exactly. Like a symptom and a direct, like, I'm almost thinking of this like theatrically. If we breaking this down into acts and scenes, like if each story is its own act and we get this scene of like I imagine them so far apart. Like even when her mother comes back and hits that corner, I immediately thought about blocking of like there's this distance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worse than the hand in the cookie jar, right? Because the cookie jar is on a shelf or like in a cabinet. Your daughter is standing over a trash can.
I can just imagine those like really cold fluorescent lights in like this dank room, and she just like curled over this trash can, you know,
and trying to connecting it to heavy, early SB.
Yeah.
Right? For people who have been with us this long and know the scene in Heavy.
Yeah.
Where Kiesi is just talking about being in that fridge and just wanting to feel full.
Mm-hmm.
Like a direct line between fiction and nonfiction here with children and neglect and food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's, yeah.
And where does that bring us? Now we're on our food and sexualities question.
What page is that on? Oh, 12. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Where does food connect to sexuality/sexualities for characters throughout the collection? List 3 characters and their relationship to food.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I feel like we can popcorn this almost. Like,
yeah,
you give one, I give one, and then we'll probably end up talking about a communal common one for the third one.
Yeah, well, the first, Eula, right? So we got the seafood boil.
Eula is the
gumbo. That's the gumbo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
how do you feel about the New Year's Eve gumbo tradition?
Mm-hmm. That whole story. Okay. I mean, you know, and I think I was watching another chat with the author, and they were talking about just how she comes out the gate being like, this is about some gay shit, okay? So, and I just appreciated that because I was like, oh, because you pick up the book and you like, okay, we about to get into some church lady, and you like, oh, they're gay. Oh, okay. But you know, it was also very sad because, you know, Eula was not convinced that she was having sex.
Eula was not having it. Eula was not having it with being called gay. She was not having it with the insinuation that she was anything other than a godly woman. She looked at Carlotta in that bed and was like, "You be having sex?" And Carlotta was looking at her like,
you don't think
you?
Okay. Cool. It's good. But just her like cluelessness around it and just this protection of like this image of herself, like, girl, because they're in their 40s at this point. So it's like, girl, let that go. Let that go and be happy, girl. It's okay. Once a year and you getting good, no. So I really appreciated that she kind of let us know that she ain't with the respectability. We ain't gonna come up in here and get no, you know, holier than thou Christian ladies. We are going to get some women who are in the church, yes, but who are also dealing with a lot of things around sexuality and not naming their sexuality, and not to say that you have to, but the fact that like you've been with this person since your 30s, I think. And you are still not accepting not even a queer identity, but that you are into women or that you are, you know, at least sexually attracted to some extent, then, you know, but I appreciate that. So, and she was, and so Disha confirmed, she was like, no, I'm not, we just gonna come right on in it. You start, we're not gonna play no games and have people guessing. So I appreciated it.
And I don't know if this counts as a food, but there's the nod to like the cheap Andre Champagne on immediately brought me to the Ari Lennox song "New Apartment," right?
Oh my god!
Ari Lennox has a line in there, and she's basically like, "I'm gonna drink my Andre Champagne out of this Dollar Tree wine glass." And I'm just like, the way that Black women know that, like, you know, but I'm gonna have the bubbles. It might not be your Moet, your Ace of Spades, but I'm gonna have my bubbles too. I'm gonna have my sparkling champagne too.
You know what? I'm still an Andre type of bitch because so you know I am fully employed, and I said, and sometimes when I get fancy, I'm like, oh, is it Corbell? It's the $9.99, but I'm like, I'm still committed to that $5 Andre Brut. And sometimes I get the Spumamente, or when I'm trying to be fancy.
Okay.
Brut. Yes, and I used to have my little mimosas. And I think it tastes good. It's a good one. So I too.
For those with us in the live chat, drop your favorite, your favorite on the come up is what we're gonna call this here. Your favorite on the come up sparkling wine. Let us know that we are not alone here.
Your favorite started from the bottom, that spirit, okay?
Please
let us know what that is.
Let's open it up. Let's talk about it. You started off with a good one, and your note about how this is the first story of the collection also is something that, like, I think I thought about as a first time reader, being like, oh, this is how we're starting. But also from like a structural standpoint, it did not have to be the first. Like, she could have easily started it with like something more cis het. Like, we could have gotten Not Daniel first. We could have gotten Dear Sister first.
Yeah, How to Fall in Love with it, or what is it? How to Say Love, something to a physicist.
How to Fall in Love with a Physicist.
Yes. How to Make Love to a Physicist. Yeah, I mean, we could have very much, but she gave it, and I really
did what needed to be done.
Yes. Barefoot. All right. Yes. Barefoot. Pink Moscato.
You said get us our representation.
I am a barefoot / yellowtail. Okay. I used to think I was so fancy when I drank Shiraz, and the yellowtail shirt. I was like, yes, it's Australian.
Yes.
There was some Malbec. When I was like, ooh, it's like, what is it, Argentina? Or I was trying to be bougie so bad.
Okay, Grigio barefoot wine mimosa.
Yes.
With the Waffle House waffle.
Yes, make your own brunch.
Yes. And so we get Eula and Carlotta. I think for this one, I'm going to dive. Whose other relationship to food? I think I'm going to jump straight to... I think I'm going to stay on Olivia's mom, because I'm still trying to figure out her relationship to that peach cobbler since you prompted it.
Yeah.
And an expression of that sensuality that leads into that sexuality, because the peach cobbler was like the appetizer before, like, Olivia describes the scene of, like, she would be leaving off of school and she see Pastor Neely in the window.
That was so cringy. And I knew, I was like, Pastor, what was his name? Pastor what? Neely? Pastor Neely got a dad bod. I just felt so I was like, oh, I don't. That's a scene. If has this been optioned? That's a scene I don't want to see at all. Who could play Pastor Neely? Let's talk about Black.
I knew you were going to go there. And this is going up on YouTube, and I don't want the elders of Black film to be like, so I got a dad bod, is what you telling me?
Because we can't get like Clifton Powell or like Keith David. They're already taken. I feel like I don't think they have. I mean, they have dad bods, but I'd watch it.
I feel like even let me pull up.
Ooh, the guy who played Wendell off of Waiting to Exhale.
Did you see this comment just now and what was said in all of our foolishness?
No, y'all.
Please, we aren't seeing heaven. We're not gonna see it.
We're not. We're going. If we're not already in hell, we're going to hell. Okay, y'all.
Yes.
I did kind of think about that. Women thou art loose. Okay.
Oh my goodness. The playback value on this episode, y'all are getting prime content for the first part. Okay.
I'm sweating because I'm laughing so hard at myself. Um, I need a fan.
Y'all said call TD. Get him on the line.
Get him on. He will do it. Okay.
He is a bishop. He got things to do.
He has a mega church and he is looking to expand his horizons. So if he's not an executive producer on this, is it really a good one? If he's not
Somebody said who played Pinky and Friday.
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember who that was.
I'm going from Pinky to the pastor.
Let me see. Let me look him up. Pinky. I feel like that's not what I'm getting. I feel like based on the name.
Child.
Oh, that's Kristen Powell. That's who I was saying. Yes, absolutely. Yes, you're right. I will go with that. Mm-hmm.
We got it locked in. Now we got to cast the mom. We're going to have a whole discussion in the Facebook group later. After this, join us for the Facebook group after party discussion. I'll post the question.
For the fellowship after the church service. Okay. We will bring our, snacks.
Amen.
We are making my little church girl heart happy because I grew up in the church. And so, anytime I get references, it is triggering. However, way, going back and just reminiscing on those days. So.
And like we say in the trigger warning, for every syllabi, right? We are not alone, right? And we will quickly hop over to the Facebook group and be like, now, why didn't nobody tell me that it was going to happen like this?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh my, going from that back into the scene in Snowfall, which is our next question of what is the significance of Rhonda cooking that meal. And we talked about the kindness of it, but to think now that we've already talked about geography, like finding the crab legs in the Midwest. I don't know if folks have lived in the Midwest.
Okay. You ain't finding no fresh netting, no fresh. You might find some catfish, okay? And that's about it.
And that's about a maybe.
Okay. And y'all know tilapia is not real. So just letting y'all know. I'm sharing the message.
You are spreading the church bulletin. This is the church bulletin.
This is in the church bulletin. Yes. I'm doing church announcements. Tilapia is not real. If you live in the Midwest, you are getting frozen shrimps and crab legs and everything. So it's definitely a luxury. Yes.
Hello. We going, somebody get us on the hotline of the Secret Life of Church Ladies support group. Somebody get the crab legs on the dry ice for our kinfolk.
One of the faculty members at my job was like, yeah, I used to get like crab cakes shipped to me from Maryland, and I was like, can you please sign me up? Like it was a year after I moved back, and I was like, can you please? I might hit him up.
And that leads us into page 14 about the connection between seafood boils and Black folks, right? Of like, it's definitely giving coastal. It's definitely giving like from Maryland on down and around to get to Houston.
Yeah.
Our Louisiana folks got the crawfish out on the brown paper table, right? It's giving communion. It's giving, you better teach them kids how to break open this shellfish because we're not wasting it.
We're getting all of the meat, okay? We are. All of the flesh, yes. Oh, I don't know what I was watching. It was a documentary, and this lady was tearing no, it was somebody's YouTube channel.
That's a documentary? That is a documentary film.
But this girl's grandmama was cut. She was teaching how to do the crawfish, and that lady was getting chunks. I was like, ooh, this is an art. We need to. Oh, also, there is this, and this is not really connected, but if you all have seen on Netflix, In Our Mother's Garden, I feel like that's a great piece to watch. It's not about all food, but it's also thinking through like our ancestors and our mothers and our practices and different things like that. This also came up for me when I was like thinking about just what you said earlier about like that curation of a meal.
Yeah.
Goes into different just having that description and talking about it as it's an art. And I think so many of Black practices are seen as like elementary. And I think that when we talk about these things as they're just as good as high culture, not that it needs to be high culture, but that we give it the same type of touch or the same type of care in talking about it as though it's not just a bunch of people kind of doing random things, but there's intentionality behind it and there's a history behind it. And people absolutely know why they're doing all of these practices. I think it's really important to bring forward. Yeah.
Did you grow up eating seafood?
I did, because I'm from the Midwest, so we don't. I mean, and the thing is, I'm from Michigan. We have a lot of lakes, so I grew up eating fish like bass and trout and things like that. Catfish,
okay,
things like that, yeah, but not seafood like
like shellfish.
Yeah. So I definitely thought about the and interesting. We used to have fish fries. Somebody had a deep fryer. Okay, so fish fry. Listen, you put that fish.
Take us to church. Come on.
You get you some white bread, Wonder Bread, and you put that catfish on that Wonder Bread, and you plop that hot sauce on there, and you smack it together. You can put just a half of you just need one.
Just
you
hold it.
Smack it together. You just eat it like a taco almost. It is the best experience, and I used to have that at church. I don't know why
because you know what Jesus did. He gave them. Come on.
Okay, fish, and you know what? And there was, but we used to do grape juice because I was Kojic, so But we broke bread. We had fish. We multiplied.
Come on.
Okay, and so it was a good time.
Fellowship in the church hall.
Yes.
Come on, loving catfish. I think Black folk across at least this colonized land agree that catfishes are superior fish.
Yes. And like some of us try to, be bougie. Like, I said the tilapia thing. Some of us are not into catfish because they're considered bottom dwellers.
Mm-hmm.
And some of y'all will quote the Bible and say that they're bottom dwellers. However, I do feel that catfish is a superior fish as well. It doesn't really stick up your house like perch. Now, perch, people will argue, is also a very superior fish, but I think that you need to cook that outdoors. And if you don't have access to outdoors, then I think that you should not cook fish in your home, perch in particular. Okay, so yeah,
and that brings us to our question on page 15 about food and socioeconomic status. Also, like, the memes were flying this weekend for Labor Day weekend around like, dang, nobody cook out no more because we all live in apartments. But that also affects the food you cook, right? If you don't got Big Mama's house, who has the backyard?
Because listen, if you walk down the hallway in these houses, in these apartment complexes, it is
an experience is how we're going to refer to that.
It's an experience, okay? It is very...
You said it's very much that.
So I do feel y'all on that. Please be nice to your neighbors. I just bought an air purifier, and that was a part of me, being bougie. And I was like, I need an air purifier like this. And so now I feel more comfortable cooking those things because I too live in an apartment. But before then, I do understand.
And it's definitely
the hoteps are.
There's tilapia too. Come on. Is it the Dr. Sebi cookbook? Read. Come on.
Put me in the category. I am delivering the message about I feel like that was like a check.
I feel like that comment was hoteps are the equivalent of a broken clock is right twice a day. And for hoteps, their day is on recognizing the U.S. as let's make it literary, as an unreliable narrator, and that tilapia is not a real fish. Those are the 2 times of the day where we get some some unity
we get
between
some
the hotel
accuracy.
and the Black feminists.
Yes, that's where they align. This is where we do agree. Can you imagine being in an argument and being like, let's just find one thing we agree on? Okay, tilapia is not real fish.
And I think that's where the diaspora wars can end. We can all come around the
We can all
table.
agree. I think we all are inclined to agree. And
From
so
Detroit to South Africa, we can unite on that. Tilapia was an invention of some new century.
bringing together the Blacks, okay?
Hello? We are doing the work. Support your SPG book club.
We have brought together the Blacks, okay? Feels so good.
Oh my. And that literally, we just keep getting to the next question of how do you connect food to geography and how does that affect our relationship to food? And I'm going to go grab my charger real quick.
Okay.
So we can get into it.
Yeah, we did kind of talk about this question around like, I mean, me growing up in the Midwest, like the types of, I mean, even if it was the same dish, people make it different. Like, for example, I definitely didn't eat gumbo growing up. I was definitely, I don't even know what the equivalent would be to gumbo, like in my family or in my culture. Even just the way you make, like Bree mentioned earlier about macaroni and cheese, like roux. A roux is a very much, I think of it as a very Southern and also Creole kind of way of cooking or making macaroni and cheese. Like I wouldn't call it a roux because I don't put flour and milk and things like that together. Somehow I still have a bomb macaroni and cheese. So, you know, just thinking about not only just the types of foods, but also the types of practices, even when we have similar foods, that preparation, it looks different even when it's a similar food.
Yeah, we got a couple good comments on that one. This Facebook comment. Yeah, the Black folks and food question made me think of the connections to agriculture. My grandparents grew up needing to mine the land because selling watermelon and other foods was their living. Come on, labor.
Yes.
Come on, labor.
You know, we're gonna read a good book in January that kind of talks about like Black, like not even very slightly. I think it comes up a lot, but stay tuned. Stay committed, stay connected with the book club. We will be reading a very good book about, you know, thinking about Black agriculture and going back and thinking about the land as something that we tended to, and that we have every right to be that. Sometimes we might shy away from it because of our history of slavery, but knowing that we were stewards of the land as well. So
absolutely, and that's where to all of the relationship between Black studies and food studies, and the scholars doing that work are phenomenal.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm.
I'm against anyone using Velveeta.
Oh yeah, listen. Okay, yes, I had to grow out of Velveeta. So I'm gonna be vulnerable to that. I'm gonna be on my Brene Brown and make y'all
that safe space.
There was a moment where I used Velveeta in my mac and cheese, and that was not okay. But my mama did, so that's how we got there. And her mama did before her because I think Velveeta used to
Midwestern
welfare cheese, like the block of cheese that you got from welfare or food thing. So that's how we got there. Yeah.
And I think I was talking in undergrad to a professor of history in our department for Africana Studies, and he has a theory that the whole connection of macaroni and cheese for Black folks in the U.S. is about government cheese and the accessibility of elbow macaroni noodles.
Yeah.
Because he has studied cookbooks from earlier decades, and he was like, before we got an expansion of public assistance to Black people in urban areas, there are not recipes. He claimed, I have not done the research to back it up. He was like, I have not found an older recipe for macaroni and cheese.
Really? Oh my gosh.
I have to talk to some more food studies scholars about it, but he made a connection that he thinks it's a whole like urban planning connection of like the accessibility of the type of pasta noodles.
Yeah, noodles are cheap. Velveeta is cheap. I mean,
government cheese.
Yeah, or I'm not used them interchange with government cheese. Yes.
Right.
Somebody asked, did you have okra soup? No. And if I did, I wouldn't have eaten it because I don't like okra. I do like okra fried hard.
Mm-hmm.
I like most things fried hard, but yeah.
And I think these anecdotes that we're interjecting throughout is also like our relationship to food and space in geography. Like you saying, like, you got to get back to Maryland because you know you can get a good crab, right? The way that we talk about the accessibility of food in the South is also because the South was where the farmland was.
Yep.
Like when we talk about these rich meals beyond like our Thanksgiving plates, right? Of like a Sunday dinner plate with your collard greens and all of your things, your okra if you got it, right? Some people doing a brisket instead of some baked chicken. Like it's because people had access to space to have animals, to have crops.
Yeah. Someone said, I remember as a child helping my mother prepare collard greens. I would cut them off the stems and she would wash them. Yes. And that is a whole process. And they be trying to act like we not, curate science. I mean, it's a whole science to clean a collard green. Okay. Like you got to make sure them bugs are not in there.
You better you soak them.
You soak them. You cook. I mean, oh my God, it is get all the dirt. And so, we are innovators. We are geniuses. And so don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We found some family members in New Orleans and invited him out to our family reunion in California. And he the stuff he was boiling, we watched him in awe. Yeah.
Come on, family connections.
Yes.
Come on, finding cousin to bring out the crawfish boil.
Okay. Listen.
Oh
let me go find my people.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you all for this engagement. I'm enjoying this. Hearing about you all's families and your connection to food.
And then for our last set of questions, we're back on peach cobbler in that first line. And we have, my mother's peach cobbler was so good and made God cheat on his wife. And I think this question, in terms of rounding out the food section, is so holistic in terms of the book is called The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. And peach cobbler as a story, y'all, is so rich with the mess and the drama, from the infidelity to the Christianity to just the decadence from just about every character that's not Olivia. Like everybody else is indulging in something.
And then later she indulges herself. Okay. Because mama had a whole instruction book on what you will and won't do. Okay. And she owns a bakery now, so we come full circle. She makes the best peach cobbler. You can't tell her nothing, but she has rules and you will follow them. Okay.
Hello.
What is it? It starts on instructions for married Christian husbands. So
you said we came full circle. And even in peach cobbler itself, what I was getting at of the indulgence and the decadence is even Pastor Neely's son, right? It's also cheating. When we get that reveal,
became like a throwaway, and I was like, wait, we got to back this on up. He was just like, yeah, I got a girlfriend. Excuse me?
The apple in that tree looking real similar.
But had no concept that was cheating, though. Like, had no concept of it. He was like, of course.
He was like, you didn't know that?
Like, you think I'm effing you and don't have a girlfriend? I am the star football player. Was he a football player? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure that was the
okay, and I'm flunking geometry. I don't think it was geometry. Calculus, whatever it was. The math. Of course. Who would play him? Pooch Hall? I'm just thinking about the game.
No, because we need to find a teen. Do you know who? I don't know if he would be. This is where we get into casting and who. I guess if that's his dad, I was thinking. Do you watch this? Is it This Is Us? Where they have teenage Randall?
I haven't.
For folks who are in the comments, if you have seen Teenage Randall, and I will post a picture of our pics I'm still serious about this Facebook group after party that we're about to have. If you have seen Teen Randall from This Is Us, I feel like Teen Randall is who I'm thinking of when I think of
let's see.
What is his actual name?
Child Randall.
Not Child, because there's Child and then there's Teen. I think Niles Fitch is his name.
Oh, wait. No, this can't be who you're talking about.
Niles
Fitch. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, I didn't see that. You know, and you know, I saw like I lived my life through Empire, and I just think of all like Empire. You know what? Recently, okay, this is so random. I watched All American on Netflix, and I was like, why are all these teenagers 40? Like, y'all can't even find 20-year-old. Everybody on here is playing a teenager, and they're 40. I didn't understand that. So we won't. I won't do that. I won't cast Pooch Hall, but I will. I will ride with this. Or some of the cast members. What's the guy in who played in? No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't be right. The guy who was in Euphoria, the black guy.
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about? Who dated the girl?
Because they also look 40, but if we can age him down a little bit, or like find the right Olivia to match,
I think we can do it. I think we can make it work.
I feel like you can do that.
Yes.
And this, y'all,
I know.
It was not giving Love and Basketball. There was no Maxwell playing. It was not giving that.
No, it wasn't. We were not playing for your heart, okay?
At all. Yeah.
Well, y'all, I think we have sufficiently talked about food. We had a few jokes in there, and I hope that you enjoyed it. We thank you all for your engagement. You all will be back. I have no idea when. Is it on the Facebook group in the events?
I think so. Let me get there. I want to say next week, but don't make a lie.
Okay.
It's not been announced yet, but we do have the author chat confirmed for October 4th. So if you're not doing anything else, mark your calendar right now for October 4th at 4 p.m. The author chat for Secret Lives of Church Ladies is going down. And I know I'm going to show up with questions and clarifications.
Yes.
Because the same way we pull some nods of like, is this that character from that earlier story popping up over here? I have some more ideas of who some character overlap is, and I need questions answered.
I mostly have questions about Jael. That was a very intense story, and it was very much like, oh, we're just gonna leave you hanging. And they went, and I listened to it on the audiobook, so they went right into the next story like nothing happened. I was like, did the other story end? So it gave me very much, it just left me kind of,
Read, I believe it's 4 p.m. Eastern time for the author chat on October 4th. For all events and live chat, make sure you check the events tab on the Facebook group, and that's how you stay tuned in with us.
Yep, it most certainly is Eastern time. Thank you for that question. All right, y'all. Well, this has been great. It was good seeing you, Bree.
It was amazing.
So hopefully we might be able to do this again, depending on our availability. But if not, I'm sure we'll catch up some other time.
Of course. Have a beautiful night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.